Hello everyone, it's DuckFairy07. Today we are playing Sultai Crabvine Brew, but this list is significantly different from the previous list on my channel. We are trying out the card the Mycotyrant. So on the end step, this makes a number of tokens equal to the number of times you descended this turn, which can be a lot. All of the cards in this deck are mainly permanents except for Gaze and Unearth. So it means most of the cards you mill with Overgrown Crab, Supplier, Secretkeeper will trigger the Mycotyrant. Okay, so this can create really crazy turn 2s, especially where you can go like turn 2 Overgrown Crab, fetch, crack of fetch, mill 3 more, descend 7 times, then unearth your Mycotyrant and create 7 tokens and basically end the game on the turn 2. A lot of decks can't deal with the go wide strategy like Mycotyrant is. Okay, so also we have other strong 2-drops which are very good when used unearthed on. So we have Soul on the last, we have Urborg Lhurgoyf. These are really similar creatures that are very good 2 mana threats, but also work as enablers for the deck. So Soul of the Lost can discard cards from our hand like Vengevine, Wonder, Bloodgust of course, and Urborg, or it can sack a permanent like Supplier, while Urborg Lhurgoyf for 1 extra mana it can mill 3, for 2 extra mana it can mill 6, which is really what we want to be doing in this deck. So it does the same as the Secret Keeper, as Gaze for 1 additional mana. It's basically like you played both Supplier and a big 2 mana creature for 3. So there are enough of the good unearthed targets in this deck. Also sometimes Supplier and Overgrown Crab are very good unearthed targets by themselves. So Mycotyrant, yeah, another one good, the reason why we play the unearthed in this list, and it can get really explosive with it. Okay, so on the sideboard we have some Spell Pierce, some Graveyard Hate, removals mainly for Doughty Voidwalker or big creatures like Murktide, Havar Mites to deal with opponents' Graveyard Hate, but also with the One Rings, the Beanstalks, Necroplasm mainly for the Rhinos, or it can also be there to deal with Construct Elementals. Okay, construct creatures. Okay, so unfortunately in the league I played I didn't have the Necroplasm. This would make my Rhino matchup much easier. This guy is amazing against it. It dredges from the graveyard, you can put it into your hand. End of turn, it kills all Rhinos. It's difficult for them to deal with. The Force doesn't deal with it. They have to have instant speed removal. And you can do it while they're tapped often. And also you can use Unearth on it. And that's a pretty synergistic card for this deck that deals very well with that matchup. Unfortunately I didn't have it. If I had it on the sideboard in the league we are going to play, I would do much better. Okay, so let's go through the league and see how it went. Okay, so the problem of the classic Sultai Crabvine was always it being kind of not good enough into the scam matchup, and that is mostly the reason why this deck ended up falling off out of the meta lately. The deck definitely got some new tools and was played until like occasionally played like until 6 months or a year ago, and then I didn't really see it for a long time. But okay, so here I play turn 2 Soul of the Lost, discarding Vengevine, and I have Stitcher Supplier and another Soul of the Lost in my hand. This means if I can get a land next turn it can get really crazy. So I got the land, I got the second green source in case I top deck any more of my Vengevines. I play the Stitcher Supplier, mill 3 more, then cast another Soul, mill 3 more with the Stitcher Supplier, trigger 2 Vengevines in my graveyard, and attacking with a huge Soul of the Lost. This is basically almost close to the lethal. Opponent has Solitude to deal with the souls, but I'm attacking with 2 Vengevines, and I have another soul on 10-11 on the field. Milled another Vengevine with a second Stitcher Supplier trigger, and have 2 Gazes in my graveyard, which means I have stuff to do on my next step. Okay, opponent have the Binding here to deal with the second souls, but I go Otherworldly Gaze in my upkeep, trying to prepare something more for the turn after. Opponent actually uses the Commandeer because they know this is probably their last chance to get out of this, find some answers. They go for Teferi Time Reveler, bounce one of my Vengevines, but they don't have a solution for a third one. And that is the game. Opponent had insane amount of removals, but that didn't help. Okay, so game 2, let's see what I did in this matchup. Okay, so I mostly do some trimming, so we don't need a Wonder, they don't play much creatures, so there's nothing to fly over. Of course, okay, sorry, I did have Necroplasm actually in the sideboard, but the league I played before I didn't have it, and yeah, that league was very full of the Rhino players, and I included Necroplasm for this league after, so I was very close to trophy but lost to Rhinos. And because I didn't have the Necroplasm on the sideboard, I included it in this one, but then I ran into some bad matchups, and I will talk about this and the reason why this deck had some problems. Okay, so as I was saying, deck definitely had some problems against Scam, against that Doughty decks. So Doughty decks got a lot more popular in the last year, and yeah, so the problem is that decks don't play just Doughty, they usually have other pieces of Graveyard Hate, so Doughty plus other Graveyard Hate, it's like really difficult to deal with. If we have like one Graveyard piece, Graveyard Hate piece, I can deal with it in this deck, because I just played my Hero Mites, I exile all Leyline of the Voids or Rest in Pieces, whatever. I just wait patiently until I draw it and then try to go aggressively. Okay, but having Doughty plus another graveyard piece, either artifact or enchantment based, it's very hard. Okay, so what happened here is playing our Mycotyrant with Hedron Crab on the field, getting the fetch, triggering Mycotyrant 7 times, getting 7 fungus tokens on the field, and even the deck like this that plays Fury, it's so hard for them to deal with 7 of the tokens. It will eventually do the beatdown, so they have to have removal for the large Mycotyrant and also a lot of Furies to deal with the tokens, and that is definitely a very hard game for them. And since I have like Haver Mites on the sideboard if I want to bring it in, but I don't really need it that much, but it's good still, because they play Leyline Binding, they play Beanstalks, they even sometimes have the One Rings or whatever. So yeah, that is what I brought in. Trimmed some of the cards, like 2 Unearths because I was expecting some Graveyard Hate. Trimmed 1 Tyrant, 1 Lhurgoyf, 1 Souls, 1 Wonder, and that's it. Okay, so that is very quick matches against 4 color beans. Just basically did too much stuff early. They were not able to deal with this, and they only play Endurance as their only graveyard hate piece, and often they have only like 2 or 3 of those. So not very good equipped to deal with this deck. Okay, so I decided to go for the breeding pool and go Gaze on turn 1. I was not expecting to go like Stitcher Supplier, Bloodgust on turn 2, so I did not... okay, opponent goes for Fire Ice. I had Hedron Crab on top, so I was hoping to go like Hedron Crab, fetch, mill 3, then play Stitcher Supplier. But opponent unfortunately has Ice on this turn and then Stern Scolding for Hedron Crab, so my plan didn't really work out. But I play a land, hold mana to play Gaze on their end step, dig some more, try to find that Vengevines or Soul of the Lost. Soul of the Lost are great here. Okay, so I find the Souls, so I can play the Souls, discard the Bloodgust. And yeah, they have Reprieve here, but I trigger 2 Bloodgusts, which is like really good. It's kind of hard for them to deal with it. They have to have like either Binding or Solitude for both of these. Okay, so I played the Soul of the Lost and my opponent has Subtlety, which was like really annoying because my opponent had really a lot of these uh, free solutions for my early plays, like Fire Ice totally just stealing a turn from me, then Stern Scolding, hitting my best play, then Reprieve. Yeah, so then Subtlety just stonewalling my Bloodgust. I can't attack here. And yeah, okay, so when I tried attacking, opponent had the Hardcast Solitude already, and I used my Soul of the Lost here and sack Bloodgust to bring black Bloodgust with a fetch, then play the Urborg Lhurgoyf, but opponent has removal for that too. So after that I go for double kick Urborg Lhurgoyf, milling 6 cards, keeping Vengevine in hand, trying to find a Wonder in the graveyard to deal with Subtlety, but opponent has another Reprieve, and that is the game. Yeah, amazing game by the opponent actually. They had so much of this cheap interaction and it allowed them to play the Subtlety on the turn 4 and hardcast the Solitude on turn 5, and it was like pretty impressive what they did in that game. But let's check out the next one. Yeah, so going for a Hedron Crab, I decide to go for the fetch immediately, try to trigger the crab, try to find the Vengevines. So no Vengevines in the graveyard, so there was no need to play the Havar Might right now. Didn't want to let it die. Okay, so now I have Soul of the Lost, excellent top deck. Soul of the Lost is so good here, especially with Hedron Crab pumping it and being able to discard all these powerful threats. So I was able to put Vengevine in the graveyard, play the Soul of the Lost, which is just a huge threat, threatening to win the game instantly, trigger the Vengevine with Havar Might, and next turn I have Hedron Crab with the land again, milling 6 cards, playing Souls of the Lost again as a really huge threat, triggering another Vengevine, and that is a lot of damage. Okay, opponent didn't have, they needed like a Supreme Verdict right now and they didn't have it, so that was the game. And let's check out the game 3. Okay, let's check out the sideboarding plan for this matchup also. So trimming on Mycotyrant, trimming on Urborg Lhurgoyf and the Unearth. So when trimming on the Unearth, I usually trim on some of these good Unearth targets. And so I trimmed 2 Lhurgoyf, 1 Tyrant, also against control decks, almost always trimming the Wonder. They don't really have enough creatures to justify playing Wonder. There's just nothing to have evasion for. Also trimmed 1 Bloodgust. Bloodgust is good against them, but also I have some good cards in the sideboard which I really wanted. Primarily 4 Havar Mites, they are great. Okay, so here it's not ideal situation for me to play the Mycotyrant, but it is a big threat. If they don't deal with it immediately, it can quickly create a lot of tokens each turn, and that is problem, so they have to deal with it immediately. Okay, so next turn I go for the second Mycotyrant, also triggering the Vengevine. I didn't have a fetch, but I had the land to trigger the Hedron Crab. So end of turn, Mycotyrant make 3 fungus tokens, making it a 4/4 again. Very good threat for if I get a top deck, anything like Secretkeeper, Supplier, land, so many top decks which can make like this Mycotyrant go crazy, immediately make a lot of tokens, and it already did 3 opponent really has to deal with it immediately or it will be too late. Unfortunately, these guys can't block. If these guys could block, then yeah, I would have had the trophy in the first league I played against Rhinos. Unfortunately, they can't, but the card is still good, pretty aggressive, and that was the match. Okay, so let's check out match 3. This was I only played 2 leagues with this one, with this list, and it felt pretty good. So as I said, you will see my losses in this league were mono black Coffers and the red black Scam. These are the hardest matchups, not for this deck, but I think for all of the Sultai Crab strategies. Strictly because they mostly play like Doughty Voidwalker and Leyline of the Void, which is like, if they have both, it's almost like impossible to deal with. I bring in both Pylon and the Havarmite. Yeah, unfortunately here my opponent had the Manatite. For my souls, did not expect that, but they did have it. I still discarded the Bloodgust, so it's okay. I have, since I saw them playing turn 1 Sigarda's Aid, I knew my Hedron Crab is safe, so I was able to play it immediately on turn 1. And when you get to play Hedron Crab on turn 1, it can do a lot of crazy things. And unfortunately, I was not able to find cards I was looking for, like Mycotyrant here. But I did get the 2 Souls of the Lost, and they were like 11-12, which is pretty good. It's almost as big as their construct tokens equipped with Hammer, and it can quickly just be larger than that. Okay, so here it is. My souls are now 14. I attack for lethal here. So opponent didn't really play good. They did not probably know how the giver works. So they give protection after attacking. Yeah, that was not good. But okay. I got that game 1, and let's check out the game 2. Okay, again, trimming Bloodgusts, all Bloodgusts actually. Like, I feel like Bloodgusts are pretty useless in the Hammertime matchup. They can't block, and they can't really attack either. If they have any threat on the field, relevant threat. Also, like Sanctifier, it's pretty hard for the Bloodgust, definitely. So opponent got Sanctifier early on the field, and I don't really have much ways to deal with Sanctifier. I have blue creatures to block it, like Secretkeeper blocks it really good. I also got Wander into Graveyard, which was really good. So my plan here was just to fly over my opponent blockers, try to make big threats with Mycotyrant or Souls of the Lost, Urborg Lhurgoyf, whatever. So I was able to mill 7, descend 7 times here, play the Mycotyrant, and since I already have like Wander in the Graveyard, I was able to make 6 fungus tokens here. They all have flying, and also my Mycotyrant is pretty big. Okay, so my opponent puts a Caldera on the field. Yeah, I had Pylon in my hand. I decided not to use it on the Stoneforge because they found the Colossus Hammer. I was suspecting them maybe having the Caldera, but the chances were not that big, so I decided to hold the Pylon, and I used it on the Pure Steel Paladin, so still got really good use for it. Okay, here it is, the Souls of the Lost 15-16 with flying, and the Urborg Lhurgoyf 8-9 triggering 3 Vengevines. So basically I got the immediate kill here. This is also like turn 4. Pretty amazing turn 4, I would say. You can really do stuff like this very often against non-interactive decks. Opponent had a blocker, but that was the lethal, and yeah, that was the match against Hammertime. So let's check out the losses. The losses are really good examples of losses. I think the only two matchups currently being popular played that are really good against this deck, it is mono black Coffers and red black Scam. Okay, so these are the two matchups this deck has some problems with. Okay, I was able to go turn 1 Stitcher Supplier, mill over Bloodgust. Bloodgust is very good early threat against a lot of these decks. My opponent has the Bowmasters to deal with Bloodgust easily, but still it's something they have to deal with. Okay, so here I got Soul of the Lost. Soul of the Lost is pretty big threat here. I decided to mill over my Stitcher Supplier and make my Souls of the Lost 8-9 with flying. 9-10, sorry. 9-10 with Bloodgust in the field. With flying, that is one huge threat. But unfortunately, my opponent has like a lot of single removals. So they got to 4 mana, they get to play the One Ring, and they also, I don't have removals in the main, so Sheldred plus the One Ring is really like, I would say my opponent had exceptional hand in this game 1. It is one of the best hands I played against in this mono black. They had like, they found the One Ring and then the Sheldred and then find the Bloodchief Thirst plus Fatal Push when they obviously didn't have it before. Okay, once my opponent established Sheldred and the One Ring on the field, plus so many removals they play in their deck, also they have like Damnation. It was impossible to deal with all of this, so I had to concede here, and that was the game 1. Yeah, I was expecting really to win this one. I thought it was like almost impossible for my opponent to survive this, but they got it. Okay, so I need my pylons here to survive that Sheldred, as you saw in the game 1. I also need Havermites. Okay, so my hand was not nearly as good in this game 2. I played the Otherworldly Gaze, digging for stuff, didn't get much. Didn't find basically anything still, so had Otherworldly Gaze in hand and holding Spell Pierce. My opponent was obviously just holding for the Gleeful Demolition thing, not planning to do much else. But I was just not able to put any relevant threats on the field, and I finally find the Souls of the Lost. But Souls of the Lost is really not that hard for them to deal with. They have plenty of Bloodchief Thirds, Fatal Pushes, whatever, so it is not as significant threat against them. Also Urborg Lhurgoyf the same. Souls of the Lost can, against some these decks in a situation like this, end the game pretty quickly, but it's not a big deal for them. They have a lot of these 1 mana answers to it. Yeah. Okay, so things were not looking great here. I tried to mill something with the Hadron Crab on the field and had Havermite in my hand to trigger the Vengevine if I accidentally hit it, but no luck there. And yeah, this was a mistake here. I misplayed by not holding the blue mana for Pierce, but it didn't really matter because it was over anyway, and I just don't have much chance with a hand like this against them, and that is the match against Mono Black. Okay, so let's check out game 3. Okay, so the matchup against Scam I think got a lot better in recent months for this deck. a lot of new powerful threats that can be really useful in this matchup. My opponent goes for Ragavan Connect, then plays Fable, which means I have free turn to do whatever. I go for the Souls of the Lost, discarding the Bloodgust. If they can't deal with Souls of the Lost immediately, it can become a really unkillable threat for them. They only play a couple of Terminates to deal with it. And I went for a Hedron Crab plus fetch, milling a lot of cards here. I have Vengevine and Wonder in my hand. They have to block with Souls of the Lost. It's a 2-turn clock. And yeah, it's very hard for them to race with it. Opponent plays the Orcish Bowmaster, establishes a pretty decent board right now. And I got a land. I was not able to play the Vengevine, but I was able to play Wonder. This means if my opponent kills my Wonder, all my creatures have flying. No green mana to play my Vengevines. Opponent now has the Kiki Jiki active, so they can go for Bowmasters to ping me on their end step. Okay. I found a fetch here. I was able to go for a breeding pool. I decided not to not to shock myself to play the Vengevine. It was like too risky, because obviously they can go like a Grief, copy Grief, and then copy the Grief again for the attacks. But my opponent also finds the Fury to kill my blockers. Then they can copy Fury, and that is game over. And that is game over in a situation where I just kind of needed solution to put my Wonder into the graveyard. I didn't get it, and so my Souls of the Lost was blocked by all of these jumpers, and I was not able to get through. So pretty sad loss in a game 1. But yeah, okay, so let's check out the game 2 and the sideboarding plan for the scam matchup with this list. Again, I decided to get rid of the Bloodgust completely for this matchup. Trimmed some Unearths. This is like the usual. I have to put in a lot of sideboard cards in this matchup, like Leyline of the Void and the Pylon are both very useful. So that is a lot of cards, so I have to find a room somehow for it. Opponent plays the Doughty. In response, I go for my Otherworldly Gaze, finding me Souls of the Lost. So to be able to play Souls of the Lost, actually I had to sacrifice my Leyline of the Void, but that was fine. I had like a really huge threat here that can end the game pretty quickly. My opponent now has Doughty, so I targeted them with my crab abilities. I could have sacked, of course, I could have sacked the Hedron Crab to the Souls of the Lost ability to put my Leyline of the Void on the field. Okay, so now I got the Pylon, as it was a bit risky for me to attack with Souls this turn. I decided just to dig with the Pylon this turn, try to clear their blockers potentially, and also I really wanted to get rid of the Doughty if I had a chance. So I played the Pylon, and then I was able to put 3 cards into my graveyard, making Soul of the Lost a lethal attacker. Also finding a Wonder means they also can't jump, and that was lethal attack for 13, and that was the game. So let's check out the game 3. Okay, so maybe I should have kept my first hand It had some Mycotyrants in. But anyway, they had the Grief Scam on turn 1 anyway, so I would not be able to play the good cards I had in my starting hand anyway. So here I had my second hand was also pretty bad. I'm not sure why I didn't play the Hedron Crab here. I have actually no idea. I think I probably just misplayed. No, sorry, misclicked or something. But I'm really not sure. Okay, so here I go. Hedron Crab, fetch. But yeah, fetch doesn't do too much because they had now Blood Moon on the field. I got my basics, so I was covered for that. But unfortunately, my fetches are way worse right now, and I was already on 6. And so in this iteration of a deck, I don't have like Creeping Chills to get some life to gain more time before trying to do some big recursion from the side from my graveyard, like getting the Mycotyrant, Souls of the Lost would be the things I really needed in this game. Didn't get it. Opponent had the Fury to finish these things up and ended the game immediately. So that was it. Okay, so I'm not sure still how this deck compares to the build of Sultai Crabvine I had on my channel 10 days ago. It sometimes has more explosive turns, like actually turn 2 Hedron Crab into the Unearth, Mycotyrant or Souls of the Lost can be extremely powerful. Also you have more options for turn 2, like Hedron Crab, fetch second 1 mana creature to trigger Vengevine, or just there are just so many options you can go, like Secretkeeper plus Unearth, Stitcher Supplier plus Unearth. Unearth is another 1 mana spell that works very nicely on turn 2 with a lot of options you get. Also, like lot of, as I already said, a lot of good Unearthed targets. Soul of the Lost, Urborg Lhurgoyf, Mycotyrant are the best, but also sometimes getting back the Supplier, Hedron Crab can be even better. Also from the sideboard, getting back Havarmite and the Necroplasm, also very relevant in the games you need it. So that is it. Okay, hope you like the deck, hope you like the gameplay. I can't say which version is better. I didn't play enough. As I said, just played 2 leagues with it. This one and another one where I lost to I think 2 games against Rhinos because I didn't have the Necroplasm. But yeah, after that I put the Necroplasm. Of course, didn't face any Rhino players in this league, but I think it is a good sideboard card. It is very synergistic, has Dredge, and I expect Rhinos to be one of the most popular decks in the next month. So that is it. Friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe, comment in the video. I'm excited to hear about the Crabvine players. How did they experience this list against the previous list from my channel, which is like the classic one list. Just added some souls to my old Sultai Crabvine list from my channel, and that's it. Okay, so thank you for watching again, and that is it for today. Goodbye.